Hello, this is a Bluthner style 4 grand piano, 150 centimeters long, made in 1939, so it's one of the later ones. They started making them in about 1926, and 1939 is one of the last ones. 1940 possibly we've seen before, but this later ones can sometimes be walnut, as this one is, and we're always grateful to get a walnut small grand piano in, because they're they're very popular. That's obviously a reason, and I like them. Their veneer is always tastefully done, so it's looking around the whole piano. We have already made good any defects that we can make good. There's one or two that we can't, but the polish is generally extremely high quality, so I'm not too, hopefully if you're interested in the piano, the small blemishes won't distract you too much. So let's just have a look around to see what there are. Pretty integral, I think. Generally the colour is integral throughout. So walnut's always very beautiful wood, I believe. You can see the music stand there. It's typical the way it's done, so that there's a centre bit here, and if you look here you can see kind of like, they often appear like eyes as they're mirrored right down the centre there. So that's tasteful, I believe, and here too. So generally a piano which, if you're particularly keen on walnut, you won't get much better than this. And the Bluthner small grand piano has always been extremely popular, small grand pianos, because they're very high quality, one of the best small grand pianos that you can get. So by far the most common wood is mahogany, flame mahogany, very pretty, and we've bought and restored and sold many of those. This is walnut, as I say, so it's unusual to get, and light walnut too, which is again usually very sought after. So there's a slight blemish here. My colleague, who our polisher, said he can't remove that. Obviously we can repolish the whole piano and that would remove everything, change the colour slightly too, but hopefully that's not too distracting. You can see there's no fade line here really to speak of, so the lid, very often you get a fade line where the lid's been held open and here is darker than here, but this is quite a light coloured piano anyway. Now the piano has been well restored by one of the UK's respected restorers in 2004 approximately, perhaps slightly later possibly, but the client bought it in 2004 it was bought from a composer actually, and we'll let you know the names of all of these if you are interested in purchasing the piano. So the tuning pins are very tight. The rest bank hasn't been changed, but they are extremely tight and should stay that way for 30 or 40 years without any problem, providing you don't dry the piano out. There is a slight problem, and that is that the frame paint seems to have crazed slightly there, as you can see. So there's crazing on the frame paint, and I'll show you hopefully all the areas where it has crazed. So let's have a look round here. They're particularly crazed here, and you can see there it's actually bubbling a bit. So if you touch this you might damage it, so it's probably best to leave it as it is. I've talked to our polisher about this. You could possibly improve the colour in there and make it look more like the rest of the frame. We could redo the whole thing, but this is a bargain price because of that. So I want to encourage you to, if you're a musician particularly, or if you just don't mind these slight defects, then I would very much encourage you. You can see the string line is excellent in the bass here, and the bass strings I think are as good as the original Bluthners. Let's have a listen to them down the bottom here, and that's as rich as you can get. So it will be German wire, both treble and bass replaced, and very integral break points, not much difference in the tone there and there. Do a little bit of voicing, I think. That's a new decal put on, because the soundboard was reconditioned at the same time. Has good replacement key tops. The key bushings here have been replaced, and hammer shanks and rollers, which we've mentioned many times, is a major job to do. So these are Arbel hammers. If you look down here you can see the name Arbel on the side there. And one of the two main German companies, Arbel and Renner. Arbel, we very often choose Arbel for Bluthners as well when we restore them, and they've put talc here as well on the rollers, which is obviously encouraging for us to see, because it means it was well done. That should be done. Talc or Teflon powder. And then the hinges are very tight here because we changed hammer shanks and rollers. They've been very well fitted. Fitting hammers isn't an easy task, but it's a very painstaking and patient task to do. I've done a bit of extra regulation, which I'm going to show you. You can see the two hammers are slightly higher there. And by the way, there's hardly any hammer wear since it was reconditioned. So the folks that had the work done didn't really use the piano much afterwards. So we've tried to refine the touch and regulated the capstans down here. I don't know if you can see them on the video, shown it on many other videos, and then the let-offs here. The hammer height was the hammer blow was a bit great. It's reduced it to 47, which is normal for this type of piano, and just feels good. You go a lot on how it feels of the action. I'm used to doing these pianos. And then we've also regulated the springs. There's the spring adjuster down here on this action and on Bechstein's and lots of pianos. It's very convenient to have this screw here, which means you can just adjust it so that if you look at, as I lift the key, the back check, let's have a look on this one, it's easier to see. You can see the back check there, and as I lift the key, the back check lets it go, and that one's going up, but not quite as positively as we'd like it to. If we look at B and C here, B isn't really going up at all, just very slightly, and C a little bit more strong. You don't want to feel it in the finger, but you want it to be positive, and obviously over the years it tends to need doing so as the spring wears a bit, but it's got another 30 or 40 years wearing. You see the difference there, and you can get the set off closer too when we have the hammer higher up. So, or rather, it allows better touch. There's a bit more after touch. On our assessment sheets that we make for pianos, we obviously note the details of the piano. Legroom is important if you're tall. That's not a lot of legroom if you're very tall. You might want more legroom. You couldn't raise the casters up very much. If you look down here, you'll see the caster there. You could put caster cups under which raise it, but the pedals are quite high as well. So we've got 7 centimeters here for the pedals height. So if you want to check, you'll see we can tell you what these measurements are because we've obviously done them. Early dampers, I didn't mention that earlier. I'll just have a quick look at that. So as I press the sustain pedal down, you can see some of the dampers are lifting off earlier than others. We want to correct that, and the ones that are lifting off early, let's have a look at this one. So it's a bit early to the key as well as I'm pressing the hammer. So really halfway would be ideal, or if you want it very light, then 2/3. Not any further than that, otherwise they don't come off properly, especially in this area. They need to be halfway really, and then they'll lift off properly. And looks as though it's very well regulated apart from that, but that's just a refinement that needs doing. Other major work we need to do is that's slightly on the heavy side. 54 isn't too bad for middle C. That's fine. 50, 52 will be normal. 47 is the least it would be there. But some of these are higher. And if we look down here, we'll see that if we lift the keys up, they should drop down, and they don't drop down properly. So that means they need lubricating here with dry lubricant, talc or Teflon powder. And so that will make a difference. They're definitely tight. So we would standardly do that. Sometimes when it hardly needs doing, we'll do it anyway, because it just really keeps the action fluid. If the piano gets a little bit on the damp side or hasn't been used for a long time, it often gets stiff here. So that's a Bluthner style 4 grand piano, 1939, with walnut case. It's been restored beautifully, really. We're going to try and refine it. There's some things like the dampers need regulating, but it's typical kind of work that we find we need to do just to get the piano as perfect as possible. We're aiming to make it play like a new piano, so there's no reason why you shouldn't study on a piano like this. If you're wanting to get the finesse of the action, we're going to regulate it so that it really plays as gently as possible and then has as much dynamic range as well. So you can rely on the control. Also the unicorder pedal we regulate too to try and get maximum contrast. as good a bass as any bass that we've ever had in a Bluthner Star 4. So we're really grateful to get this piano in. If you're interested in the piano, please do write to us, info@robertspianos.com. If you want to try it out for a while, that's a possibility as well. So thank you very much for listening.